We have an absolutely massive report just dropped regarding Scottie Barnes' availability in the Giannis Antetokumpo sweepstakes. Over the past couple of days, reports have seriously escalated regarding Giannis Antetokumpo coming to the Toronto Raptors, being interested in joining the Toronto Raptors, and now we have an update in regards to the availability of the Toronto Raptors top guy here right now. You saw it in the title. The Toronto Raptors are going all in on acquiring Giannis, and that involves not keeping any players off the table, including the man that is a budding star in this league, that's been an all-star, that was given the reins to this Toronto Raptors squad, Giannis Antetokumpo. If he's coming to Toronto, it's going to take a lucrative package, and Scottie Barnes looks like he will be in those packages according to these recent reports. So we're to break down what these reports are, what it means to the Toronto Raptors going forward in these trade negotiations, and frankly, how this completely flips the script in terms of the Raptors moving forward to the future. So much to break down in this video, so let's jump straight into it because there's a bunch of stuff going on. If you're not familiar, essentially, yesterday news came out from Doug Smith that I don't know if it will happen, but I do know there is mutual interest between Antetokumpo and the Toronto Raptors. The wild card is the cost. So there's mutual interest. Giannis is willing to come to the Toronto Raptors. He's, interested according to these reports, and this isn't the only update we heard on that front. Scoop B came out last week. Some people were roasting it, but he said two teams that have emerged as destinations of interest for the two-time MVP, of course, Giannis Antetokumpo, are the Toronto Raptors and the Brooklyn Nets. Scoop B went on to say in his report that Giannis wants to be in a place where he's the face, he's the guy, he's that, franchise. We saw how Kawhi was embraced out there across the country of Canada when he was here, won us a championship. Giannis sees that and wants that type of respect, that type of hype, that type of everything here in Toronto. So that's a big update there. We've seen these. We've seen these couple updates. And then, of course, the last one I'm going to rehash before we break down the new stuff is I don't want to get too far ahead of this, but since it has come up, the Raptors are a team that's starting to make noise within the league about looking for big fish. So Brian Windhorst is revealing that the Toronto Raptors are trying to make one of these big moves. Masai Ujiri's not being on the sidelines with all of the madness that's going down this offseason. But as I mentioned from the jump, would Scottie Barnes be available in these trade talks? As, Scottie, as we know, really just has a ton of potential. 23 years old, 20 points, 19 points per game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Guy, the three-point shooting wasn't great, but definitely just defensively took his game to another level last year, facilitating everything in a really weird season for the Toronto Raptors. Well, here's the new reports. As Doug Smith came out and said that they will probably talk about Scottie Barnes as a centerpiece in the Giannis Antetokumpo trade. I don't think there's anybody on the roster they wouldn't talk to, so they wouldn't talk about in terms of these trade packages. And this is where things taking a turn because we've seen all the reports, the mock trades, this, that, and whatever. But Raptors fans are hopeful Scottie Barnes will be able to remain on the roster in one of these trades. But realistically, if we're going to compete with the other teams out there making these big splashy packages, for Giannis, it's going to be tough to do it without including, Scottie Barnes out there in the mix. We don't have as much draft capital. We don't have the other types of players out there on the roster in order to compete with, the Brooklyn Nets of the world, the Rockets of the world, the other teams at that level. We are going to have to include Scottie Barnes. And I think if we do, then our package becomes undeniably great in terms of making one of these deals go down. So that is pretty crazy. Of course, I've been bringing up his stats a ton out there in these videos, but RJ Barrett can be another guy, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, out there in the mix, but I don't think he's the main centerpiece that the Bucks are looking for in one of these trade packages. It's really going to come down to Scottie because basically I don't have Giannis' stats pulled up, but Giannis, 30 points per game, 11 rebounds, still in the prime of his career. And newly signed, he was the GM for a long time, but just got a big extension. John Horst apparently wants to gut whatever team that he's going to trade Giannis Antetokumpo to. So that's going to lead to some very interesting trade packages for the Raptors to get involved with. Of course, we take a look at the roster that the team has here right now in terms of the guys that are out here on this team. Of course, Brandon Ingram, Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl. There's a 4 in there that if you, again, deal away Scottie Barnes, you add Giannis to that group, that is one of the most elite starting lineups out there in the entire NBA. Off the bench, of course, you have Gradey Dick right now, you have Jacoby Walter, you have Ochai Agbaji, you have pieces to make one of these deals happen, and one of the mock trades that's getting floated around here now is not called my Malwatch. It's basically Giannis coming to the Toronto Raptors, Scottie Barnes, Ochai Agbaji, Gradey Dick, the 9th pick this year, a first round in 27, and a first round pick in 29, going to the Milwaukee Bucks for Giannis. Now, I'm going to say this here first. No one's beating that trade package. The Houston Rockets are not putting together a trade package better than that. The Thunder aren't. The Spurs aren't. Of course, unless someone's doing like lucratively stupid. But in terms of realistic trade packages, if the Raptors go all in on Giannis here right now, no one is beating that trade package. An up-and-coming rising star in Scottie Barnes, who's been an all-star, who's been at that level, who's been that level of guy out there in the NBA, a lottery pick. So you're getting it's because a lot of the first-round picks you see thrown out there in these different deals and stuff, they end up being just really trash late first-rounders. They aren't lottery, but this is a guaranteed lottery pick in this year's NBA draft. Gradey Dick, who has proven that he is going to be an actual player out here in the NBA, knocking down threes, complements Scottie really well, a really, really nice young piece going back to the Bucks, and then Ochai Agbaji is one of the more elite 3-and-D role players out there in the NBA. So, and 2 first-round picks in the future on top of it. No one is beating that trade package. I'm going to stand on that here right now. If the Raptors throw this to the Milwaukee Bucks, they should take that. Even if Giannis wasn't weird about a trade, and they should take that and run. That is an absolute steal. Like, for the Bucks, for the Raptors, that's a lot to give up because, again, I know some people, I know it's homerism, I know it's this to be like, oh, Scottie Barnes for just Giannis. Giannis is a way better player than Scottie. Do not get me wrong on that point. But Ochai, Gradey, and 3 firsts on top of it is, given the age, given everything that's going on, given everything you're giving up, is it that the case? Like, again, value-wise, that's a tough pill to swallow out there on that avenue, just the way the Raptors put together assets. But then you look at it like this. In the NBA, you essentially can put together, say, you can have 4 quarters, they don't equal $1. The dollar player is better because then you can get other quarters. So you can get other of these pieces to fill out the rest of the roster. So you just kind of go all in on those types of moves. And we've seen Masai Ujiri say in the past about how if a top 5 player becomes available, you have to end up and go out and go for it. So that's where things get interesting. Of course, Jakob Poeltl still on the team. If, there's other free agents we talked about in Nickeil Alexander-Walker in a video there this morning. There are other role players that can come out and come to the Toronto Raptors if these moves end up getting done. But it's a crazy trade package. And it is, to see Scottie go out with that much assets. I mean, preferably, I think I'd rather add Jacoby Walter to this than a Gradey Dick, but even Jacoby Walter is a very, very valuable young piece going out from the Toronto Raptors, but at least you have one of them still on this team. If you could keep that 9th pick, I don't think you can, or one of those future firsts, that's something I'd like to see. But if it is Giannis Antetokumpo, it's a champion, it's an MVP, it's a guy that gets added to this team. I mean, that is an absolute squad for the Toronto Raptors. I mean, if we look at it here, right, we look at the full tilt roster. If you had a starting lineup of Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Giannis Antentokumpo, and Jakob Poeltl, then off the bench you have, Jacoby Walter, you have a Jamal Shead, you have a Jonathan Mobo, you have Jamison Battle, you have whatever free agents this team is able to pick up out there in the offseason. You bring back a Boucher, maybe, whatever the heck it is, then that is a really, really outstanding team. You can't deny it. That is an outstanding team for the Toronto Raptors going forward. So, you can fill out the rest of the roster, you can figure it all out, but I don't know. It's an interesting spot. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. You guys have the best thing as far as subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out.